Okay, everyone, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I hope everyone is well, inshallah ta'ala. You are listening to the Iftar show with Revive FM 94.0. And alhamdulillah ta'ala, alhamdulillah, we are here in Ramadan, in the most blessed month in the whole year, alhamdulillah ta'ala. And today, hopefully, my name is Saad, for those that don't know, and we have
Hassan.
Hassan. We are friends, so we'll be hopefully doing this show just to share a few thoughts and share some ideas and just share a bit of information as well. I think sometimes, some people might be cooking now and watching the show. So assalamu alaikum to those that are doing other things or sitting in their beds, whatever they're doing at the moment. Hopefully, the aim is that we can shed some sort of knowledge, I guess. So yeah, alhamdulillah. Hassan, did you want to say anything before we officially started?
No, so it'll be a very casual show, nothing too intense, not too many details, but yeah, hopefully it'll be good.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Okay, so there's one thing I want to say before we start, and I might sound like a broken record to those that listen to Revive FM, but I've said this point a few times now. And the only reason I'm saying it is because for me personally, I really feel like I've understood this point this Ramadan. So, usually, I don't know, Hassan, if it's the same with you. My parents, they have this thing, right? Every year they make a dua and they say, "Oh Allah, allow me to see the next Ramadan." Now, when I was a kid, to be very honest, I didn't understand it. It made no sense to me. Like, okay, fine, you're doing a dua, but like for what? Okay, you want to see the next Ramadan, but like just wait. Like as a kid, you don't really think critically.
Yeah,
You don't understand it, right? Yeah.
exactly.
So now, this year, I think I understand it. When you make dua that, "Oh Allah, allow me to see next Ramadan," that Ramadan you made dua for last year is here now. And the first thing we should say is alhamdulillah. We should be thankful for it, because sometimes we are humans, we're very ungrateful, to be honest, and unless we are told or unless we're reminded, we really forget things. So I think we're in the month of Ramadan now, so the first thing is alhamdulillah,
Yeah,
right?
and perhaps this dua is a way of showing gratitude that I've been blessed with this Ramadan that I prayed for last year, and I'm making dua for the next year as a way of thanking Allah Almighty. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, I think introductions done. I think let's move on to the actual show now.
Yeah.
So assalamu alaikum to those that have just joined us. You're listening to the Iftar show with the Revive FM 94.0. My name is Saad. We have brother Hassan as well, alhamdulillah, in the studio, and we were debating about what topic to talk about today, and there's something very unique I think we should talk about. We have lots of people doing various shows, but I think this aspect is sort of missing from the past few shows, and hopefully we can tick that off. And it's mainly about the youth. Now,
Before we get to
yeah,
that, shall we talk about something really interesting? So we know the fasts are a lot shorter.
oh yeah,
So they're a lot shorter. Does that mean we have more time or less time? Because there's arguments for both. I'll give you my argument. I think we have less time. And the
okay,
reason for that is the fast is opening earlier, but because it's opening around that 5:40 something mark, from that point onwards up until around 9-10 o'clock, you're busy with iftar, praying, tarawih, and by the time you get back, it's an awkward time. You might get home at 9-10 and you're thinking, should I stay awake, should I go sleep? And it's a sort of wasted hour. And then with that principle, you only have up until sort of 5 o'clock of
fair
your
enough.
day, and then
Okay.
you're waking up again, and then you sort of sleep, you're having difficulty sleeping, so waking up later than usual, then your day is already short. So I would say the day is shorter. What do you think?
I don't know about shorter. I feel like the time is the same, but we're rushing more. I think I wouldn't say it's shorter for my schedule personally anyway. So I wake up, eat, pray, but then I don't go to sleep because I have to leave the house within an hour and
Right.
so after.
Yeah.
And there's no point of me napping. I'll probably sleep and then be late to work.
Yeah.
So then you have your work day, finish at 5, rush home. You barely make it. Trains in London, for those that are listening outside of London, the rumors you hear about the trains are very true. They're always delayed, they're always packed, they're always smelly, not great, especially when you're fasting. But anyway, so we carry on. I get home just in time to see my family. We break our fast, and then we have about an hour or so, and then we get ready for the masjid.
Right.
Tarawih, get home 10 o'clock, I'd say latest.
Yeah, and your day's ended.
The day's ended.
So,
So I feel like I'm rushing more,
mhm,
but I don't know about time because from 10 to about 4, that time is your personal time
right.
because
Yeah.
the rest is work and job. So
Yeah.
like it's half of a circle, right? You got the half circle, you're fasting and doing your work. The second half, you're supposed to be sleeping, or you could catch up with some work, or you have your personal time and do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
For me, it's kind of split. So I will sleep around 11, 12ish, and then wake up just before sahri, suhoor, eat, and
So
then
that would be
repeat.
you'd have about, I'm guessing, 4.5 hours ish.
Yeah,
So in terms of sleep, that's also disrupted.
it
So
is
where is all
disrupted.
of this extra time
I
going?
have
That's
no
the real
idea.
question. Because
Do you know what I think? I think the time is the same each year
yeah,
because our lives won't change. It's just the time we eat changes a little bit. So bear
yeah,
that in mind as well. Because what we don't realize now, we only miss lunch. So throughout lunch, I don't know,
yeah,
but I work through my lunch because I'm not eating now.
yeah,
So I don't take that break.
yeah,
But then when we go home, as soon as you're home, you eat,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then after you come home, some people eat again for dinner.
Mm-hmm,
But before, what used to happen is maybe 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, we used to eat.
mm-hmm.
And then you go to masjid and it'd be too late to eat, and then you'd sleep.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's more rush. I think the timing is similar, and I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. Yeah.
But that brings another point.
Mm.
This year's fasts feel quite short, right?
They
They're
do.
really short.
Really
But
quick.
the point is, we're only so every single year we're sort of going back 10 days,
Mm.
right? But they feel a lot shorter than just 10
Yeah.
days difference.
I don't know what it is. I feel like it's the weather as well. Like
Yeah,
one day it's sunny, one day it's
definitely.
windy.
Yeah,
That doesn't help either.
but it has been sunny since
It
Ramadan has started,
alhamdulillah,
so
alhamdulillah,
it's sort of
it
just
has.
switched.
Very true, very true.
Uh,
Mm.
but the coming week it's a lot
Mm.
colder, so let's see how that goes. I think we can leave this there without any sort of conclusion.
Let's make a
It's a
start,
bit
inshallah.
confusing.
Okay, so in Ramadan has started. So just to carry on. So me and brother Hassan, we were talking before, not before the show, but we were planning for the show,
Yeah.
and we were deciding what topics could we do. I mean, you could do the typical topics, but I think today there's something very specific we want to talk about, and we've planned out a few points, and I think inshallah they should make sense to the young viewers and maybe some of the parents as well. Myself and brother Hassan, we are teachers. We teach in the masjid, and there's lots of things that we see, which is why it's very relatable to us.
Mhm.
But I think our job sometimes is to explain the things that we see so that people can become slightly more understanding,
Yeah.
inshallah. Anyways, enough waffling. Let's actually start now. So the concept is, the idea is that in Ramadan, the one thing, just relating to what we were saying before about Taraweeh, is that we come to the masjid. Now, beforehand, the difference that we saw, students and children wise, is that in the last few years there haven't really been that many youth attending the masjid
Yeah.
for Taraweeh, but now because of the timings
Yeah.
and they can sleep for school,
Mhm.
there's been lots more, mashallah. They've
Yeah.
really been attending the masjid.
Let's think about the times when we were
Yeah,
around
very
their
true,
age.
very true.
I don't I mean, I do remember seeing quite a few people from my classes, even, but it wasn't that many, and it wasn't that
Yeah.
consistent
It was
either.
just, I'd
It
see
would
them
be-
once every week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
weekends usually. During the week, I remember there wasn't really anyone. I remember I used to go during the week as well, and I don't remember seeing kids my age or many kids
Right.
at all, except for the weekends when it would be packed. But that is one difference this year and last year as well. I
Very
think.
big difference, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm just laughing because there's a meme I remember on Instagram, I believe I was.
Yeah.
And it was someone reciting the Quran, and he's doing beautiful tilawat. And then just after that, there's like a WWE clip
Yeah.
of like a wrestling one.
Yeah.
So I think what they were saying is, during Taraweeh, the front rows are like super serious and
Yeah.
really focusing. And the back, they're wrestling
Yeah.
and fighting.
And it's funny, you go down the rows, the first row is the most serious
Yeah,
one. You have
yeah.
the scholars and imam. Second row is the people that got there early, and third row. As you go along and you get to fifth row-ish, sixth row, it's a different story. People jumping in and out, and you got kids jumping in at ruku time last second. And just behind the last row is where the real party is.
Hey, that is, I'm not sure about what party that is, Hassan, but okay. but I think the idea is that we're seeing much more youth coming,
Yeah.
and I think the only reason I personally am realizing it is because I'm seeing my students there.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I don't notice. I
Yeah.
mean, unless they say salam to me or unless I see them,
Hmm.
I don't notice how much youth is actually in the masjids now.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. So I think it's a really big blessing. You know, it's a blessing of
Definitely.
Ramadan.
Definitely.
More students are coming to the masjid. They're coming to pray. And you know what the funniest thing is? Whenever I ask them, "Oh, where's your parents? How's your father?" "Oh, he's at home," um,
Yeah.
which is really unique.
They come by
They come by
themselves. Yeah.
themselves. Yeah, they come all by themselves. They come with no one in mind, and I think it's a very beautiful thing. You know,
Yeah.
they come even if they're coming for their friends
Yeah.
together as friends. They're coming
Yeah.
to the
Even
masjid.
if they are coming to sort of
Mm,
mess around, they're not going to
mm,
pray fully. And
mm.
even if they pray a little bit, it's the fact that they're still sort of getting together and the thought is, let's go to the mosque.
Yeah, I have to say though, they're a bit annoying sometimes.
Yeah.
Like just at
I
the
mean,
back, they're
yeah.
making so much
Yeah, I
noise,
think we've
right?
gone really nice and now we're
Yeah,
sort
no,
of going to the
Chalo, but
throwbacks.
that's one thing to decide. Like,
Yeah.
okay, fair enough, mashallah.
Yeah.
But if any of the youth are listening, especially our students, guys, it's a masjid, yeah. So hopefully, inshallah, they reduce that. But I think it's beautiful that they're actually
Yeah,
attending the masjid.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But now that we do have a lot of youth around
Mm.
that time, and it's not too late either, 8 o'clock, it's 8 to 9 o'clock, it's not too late. Do you think there should be some sort of activity or something afterwards, after Taraweeh? Doesn't have to be for too long, maybe half an
Mm.
hour, even less than that if it needs to be.
It's interesting you say that, because the 2 points. I think one is coming up, and I'll talk about that in a second. But before we used to do, I'm not sure if you remember pizza nights.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the pizza nights, we literally used to order pizza.
yeah,
Used to have loads of youth come in,
yeah.
watch the football match. I don't even watch football.
The Euros.
The Euros,
Yeah.
that's it. Hassan knows about it. But we used to watch
Was it the Euros or the World Cup match?
something important. Yeah,
Yeah.
important football match. But they used to watch the matches and they used to sit together. They were eating, and
Yeah,
it was just a nice environment.
yeah,
And I think they enjoyed it as well, because bear in mind some of these guys will be at home watching it on like the iPad with a broken screen, or like the PlayStation when they have to log into
exactly.
right?
And to think about it, they don't really have any place to sort of go
Mm,
and watch it together.
exactly.
The only place that comes to mind is a pub,
Yeah.
which they obviously can't get
Maybe
into.
not.
So it was a really good
Mm.
thing. So maybe something similar. I mean, we don't have the
Mm.
football matches at the moment, but if we did have something similar or some sort of activity to replace that.
I mean, not an activity to replace it. Maybe we can think on that. And of course, anyone listening, please feel free to call in. You know, it's only with your input that we can do something. There's
Yeah.
only so much a few people can do together. The whole idea is that this is a community radio, and
Mhm.
it's a whole communal idea. It's about people telling us what they want for their children,
Yeah.
right? Because we're catering to those around us and those in the neighboring cities and areas. And I think if they tell us what they want, then
Yeah.
hopefully we can
Yeah,
provide, right?
definitely.
But what I was going to say is inshallah next week, alhamdulillah, we haven't officially launched it, but I think
Yeah.
Revive has the special what's it called when it's limited access, first exclusive, that's it. They have exclusive access to the event we're about to launch.
Yeah.
So inshallah ta'ala, next Friday,
Mhm.
we will be starting excuse me, next Friday we'll be starting our spiritual retreat for 2025. Now we do this every year, but this year will be slightly different, inshallah. Obviously we have shorter days, which
Yeah.
means more time not fasting with
Yeah.
the students. And inshallah, the idea is it's from ages 11 to 16. They come to us. We have lots of activities planned, inshallah.
Do you think it's a time to sort of a sneak peek into some of the activities or something
I
about
mean,
the event?
don't want to give out too much because, but yeah. So what we usually do, we
Yeah,
have
let's
some-
talk about how we usually
yeah, let's
do
have a
it.
talk. Yeah, so we
Yeah.
have some sports activities. I
Yeah.
know. So for those that don't know, the itikaf, they will actually be staying in the masjid for the 3 nights.
Yeah.
And
With
the
set
benefit,
boundaries.
yeah, set boundaries. Of course, they will be together, age groups wise. There'll be lots of teachers there as well, and safeguarding all that, of course.
Yeah.
100%. But the thing is, this time we're going to do slightly different activities. So usually what we do is sports activities, and we have trivia, and we have game nights and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
This time I won't give it away, just as a little surprise.
Yeah.
But inshallah, we're going to do something a little bit different. Hopefully it all goes to plan and it goes exactly how we want it, inshallah. But the idea is that we want the kids to leave the masjid under 3 days at the calf thinking that it wasn't boring, that they can actually go to the masjid, be with people, Muslims the same age as them, born in this country, young British Muslims together, staying in the masjid, basically having a sleepover in the masjid, but at the same time religiously observing practices
Yeah.
that are sunnah,
That
right?
brings a very interesting
Mm,
point. One of the challenges that we do face is finding the right balance. Now, how many religious activities and how many
mm,
non-religious? Just as reference, religious activities would include reciting the Quran,
yeah, Qiyamul Layl,
Qiyamul Layl, any lessons,
yeah,
taking part in Taraweeh,
yeah,
or if we have a halaqah,
Halaqa, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
taking part in that. So these are the Islamic sort of activities, some of those. And when we talk about non-Islamic, we have things like any activities, communication activities,
Mm,
team building
team building
activities,
exercises.
or even if it's just time off that they can do whatever they want to, they
Mm,
can sort of sit with their friends, they can
yeah,
talk, all of that. One thing that we do really struggle is finding a balance. And it's the
yeah.
thing is, ideally, because it is a spiritual retreat, and in the name it is some sort of routine, some sort of way to change ourselves.
Mm,
So we don't want to have too much of this world into it, so not too much of where they're just sitting and they're talking and that's what,
exactly.
because they're doing that anyways,
Yeah.
right? It's not different to how their lives would be normally.
Mm.
We want to make it different, but at the same time, if it's just Islamic activities, how many people would really want to come? Not as many, I'm
I
guessing,
think
right?
that's the issue because bear in mind they're kids.
Yeah.
They want they're not. I'll be real. Mashallah, some of them are coming for the opportunity
Yeah.
to get away from everything, but some, in any case, they're coming for their friends, and
Yeah,
that's absolutely
definitely.
fine.
Definitely.
So
As
I
long as
think,
they're coming, it's a
yeah,
positive step. Yeah.
I think it's a positive step. I think this is the calf. The idea is that the kids come, and hopefully the balance is right this time.
Yeah.
It was we were very close last time, very very
I
close.
think so as
It was
well.
really
Yeah.
successful, I think, with
Yeah.
lots of positive feedback. But we've obviously taken that feedback from the students and now introduced a slight tweak. I'm not gonna say what it is. Don't ask me. But inshallah, we will be providing that to the students. So anyone interested, please do contact us.
Yeah.
The poster will be going super viral on all of our groups. And for those that are not part of any of our groups, you can always call our admin office at Minhajul Quran. So if you just type in Minhajul Quran London and hopefully you just ask for the details and they can explain everything,
Yeah.
inshallah ta'ala.
That
Yeah.
reminds me, it's sort of, it just brought back memories about how sleepless those nights are.
Oh, no, no.
And it's not because there's not enough time, there's plenty of time to be sleeping.
But sleepless as organizers.
Yeah, and
To
the
clarify.
and it's and the reason for that is, well, the one thing that I can think of is, I think I was just lying down and I'm
Mm.
looking through the window, the blinds, the curtains, and I'm seeing a shadow and I can't see a person. So it must have been a light from far away, or I
Yeah.
don't know what it was. And the person was really close to
Mm.
exiting the hall. So I just got to see the shadow and I look out and there's no one there.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously, first thought was, "What is this?" But
Mm.
obviously, I knew he was a kid, so I'm just waiting to see where he went, where he came from, and where he went, and
Mm.
how was he so quiet that none of us heard him. And I think they're really sleepless nights. It's annoying, but at
But
the end
there's
of
so
the
much
day,
barakah in the
yeah,
nights.
and it's an
Yeah,
experience. You
it
think
is.
back to it, and it's quite funny.
I mean, I remember my first itikaf was in 2011, 12, I think,
Mhm.
something like that. And I still remember receiving that award at the end. There was a
Yeah,
nice certificate laminated.
yeah,
And I think they give us little goodie bags with topis and stuff, like topi, tasbih.
yeah,
It was just a nice experience. And I think even now, I won't say how many years later, but so many years later, you can still remember and still that whole ideology of that itikaf is in your mind. And I think one thing as well, just to mention, we haven't called it an itikaf per se. It is an itikaf
yeah,
essentially, but it's more of a spiritual retreat.
yeah.
It's more of a guidance for the youth,
Mhm.
remembrance for the youth, guidelines for the youth and how they should be living their lives as Muslims. And I
Yeah,
think even the workshop that we have are pretty good. Last time I had someone from the police come in, and we did a really nice knife crime workshop, gangs related, violence related,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah,
fantastic.
issues that the youth are
Yeah,
facing.
I
And
mean, to be honest, to those that are listening will know, when I told them about the workshop, they were like, "Oh, I don't want to listen to this. We do it at school, we do this and that."
yeah,
But when the guy came in, he was amazing.
yeah.
To shout out to brother Zishan if he's listening, but it was
Perhaps
amazing.
it
Yeah.
might have been the same workshop that they did
Mm.
in the school, but because it's a more sort of relaxed environment in
It's more
some
intimate,
ways,
more intimate.
yeah, and it's a
Yeah,
lot less people, so
yeah,
it would have been a better
Mhm.
experience.
Amazing.
But that brings the question. So you said your first itikaf was 2011,
11, 12, yeah.
12. Okay. So thinking back as far as you
Yeah.
can remember, from the times you were sitting itikaf as a
Mm.
participant to now being an organizer and trying to look from the point of view of the current participants,
Mhm.
what do you think has changed?
A lot.
A lot, yeah.
But back in the day, it was more you would come to the masjid because your parents have told you, and it's
Yeah.
like, do you know what? Oh no, my mom told me I have to come, and you
Hmm.
just do the activities that are provided to you. I think now the mindset of students, not necessarily a negative thing,
Yeah.
they like, how do I say it? They like things to make sense. They want explanations. They
Yeah.
want the question is why,
Yeah.
why,
It's a
why.
why. They
It's a
need
why
an
thing.
answer.
And if you can't explain, it's not we do it for the love of Allah Almighty. That's part of the answer.
Yeah.
But you need to provide a practical, logical answer
Uh-huh.
or explanation or reasoning
Yeah.
that the students can then
Yeah.
understand.
And that wasn't an issue for us.
It wasn't an issue for us.
We went.
We just had to do it.
Yeah, we didn't have
We
the
just had to
courage
do
to
it.
ask the why.
Alhamdulillah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have the courage. That's very true. But I think it's just part of tarbiyat, right? Like
Yeah.
you grow up in a different age, you grow up in a different generation. And bear in mind, we're not so far past that generation.
Yeah,
We're really
it's
not.
only a couple of
It's
years,
only a couple
but
of years.
to look back and to see
Mm.
how much it has changed, and that also brings us to the balance. What was the balance then in terms of activities?
Much more spiritual.
Right,
Definitely.
and we did enjoy it as
We
far as
did,
I can
we did.
remember. I remember some of the sessions were too long,
They
and we
were-
were like,
Yeah.
I
Too
can't
late
wait
at night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and bear in mind, fast was opening quite a bit later at that time,
Mm.
and I do remember it was quite sort of. It's so long. It's too many activities. I just can't wait for the free time, and the free time wasn't that much either. Of just
No.
sitting around. It was just short
And
breaks.
most of the free time was when you were fasting.
Yeah.
So it had to be ibadat regardless, right?
And even then, because you're empty stomach, you just can't
Exactly.
enjoy that free time as much
Right,
as you would
right,
normally.
right.
But that has changed now. So now we need to find a new balance. And why do you think there is
I think
a
it's
separate
not.
balance?
Put it this way: beforehand, it was the students need to listen to the teacher. Now the teachers need to adapt.
Yeah.
The teachers, the parents. I know it's unfortunate to the elders listening, but at some point we need to compromise for the students.
Mhm.
Because the thing is, it's just the way we live now, whether at school, when I'm teaching at school, anyways. If you don't cater to the students, they literally will not care. And they could not care less about the education. Before in school, I don't know, sometimes we used to act out and we're saying, I'm not doing the work. Teacher said, okay, get out. And we used to get so
Yeah.
stressed.
I remember where your heart's beating.
Yeah, your heart's beating and you're sweating because it's
Yeah.
like, oh no, I'm going to get in trouble from my parents. My head of year is going to
Yeah.
tell me off. I'm going to have a parents' meeting.
Yeah.
Like that goes through
Even
your
being
mind.
sent out the classroom for like 5 to
Mm.
10 minutes, it would completely
Yeah,
change your life for the
Exactly.
foreseeable future.
But now I think the youth, if you don't say to them,
Yeah.
if you say that to them, they'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
they do
It's
that.
sort of the fear. It's sort of the fear is just
I think
out of the
the
equation.
dynamic has flipped on its head
Yeah.
in the past recent years. And I think going forward, it will just flip as much. And just kind of linking back to the point at the beginning about the kids in the Taraweeh as well. When they come to pray the Taraweeh, yes, they're wrestling at the back. Yes, they are. But I think instead of shouting at them, and which is rightfully so, they shouldn't be fighting them.
Yeah.
Tell them off.
Mhm.
Guide them though. I think instead of, because bear in mind they are coming to the masjid without their parents, and some of them anyway, and those that are coming without their parents, they have motivated themselves. So if you destroy that motivation,
Yeah.
it won't come back.
It might be through friends, might be individual,
Yeah.
but it's some sort of motivation.
Something
that they
has
have.
made
And
them come
it
in.
might be the parents sending them, but if the parents are not coming with them themselves, it's most likely not
Yeah.
motivation from the parents.
Something is
So
motivating
It
that.
is
Don't break
something,
it.
and it's
Yeah.
something fragile, something that very vulnerable, and
Mm.
it can just change. So it's important that we find the right technique to. Obviously, we don't want to have total chaos, like
Yeah,
I
of
said,
course.
the term
We don't want to
party.
encourage
We
that.
don't
We're
want to
not.
have
We're
a
not
party.
encouraging that. No.
Yeah,
We-
but at the same time, we need to just shouting at them and just sort of telling them off in that sense might not be the best way to go around it. So
Mm.
what do you think some other techniques could be of?
I don't think techniques. I just think like you have to play it smart. I
Yeah.
think adults now have to really think about how they speak and interact with the youth. I think, okay, so the youth, stop listening now, and then you can come back in a few minutes. But I think what the parents and teachers and elders have to realize is you need to trick them.
Yeah.
You need to make them believe that we're on their side, which we are,
I was literally
which
thinking of the
we are.
same.
We
Yeah.
are on this side.
Yeah.
But I think we want to target it in a way that they really warm up to us as individuals, and
Yeah.
then slowly but surely within a few years we can
Yeah.
tell them this is why we do it, this is
When
the
we're ready
reason
to
for doing
listen
it.
to us,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And
You coax them into
yeah,
believing that this, just do it.
yeah,
However you need to do it, just make it happen.
yeah.
Whether
And
you sweet
it's
talk with them,
yeah,
whether you give them like, oh, if you do this, maybe, next lesson we can have an extra long break.
yeah.
Sometimes that works, but I think it's just about having those teaching practices or teaching moments
Mhm.
and educational moments where the students can really warm up to the older generation. I think they've slightly lost that respect for the older generation. I think
Yeah,
that's the core issue, I
yeah.
think.
And it's funny that you've mentioned to agree with them because it's probably one of my best tricks as well.
Oh,
Or
okay.
anyone as a teacher, I think is very effective.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
sort of,
I
even if
definitely.
you're completely against what they're doing,
Mm,
you just have to sort of make them think that you're literally encouraging them.
right?
And before they know it, they'll be doing the
Mm.
opposite and they wouldn't realize. And it's quite effective.
I
But
think that's, to be honest, I think
yeah,
now I'm realizing our teacher used to do it to us in the masjid somehow.
yeah.
Alama Zishan, amazing teacher. I mean, we've been in Al Minhaj Institute in the system for however many years,
Uh-huh.
since, for me, since 2011 and 12. I'm not sure about you, Hassan, but it's literally been come to the masjid, be part of the masjid, and it's just constant motivation to learn, to study, to educate yourself, to learn about the deen, to learn about religious affairs, social affairs. And I think Al Minhaj Institute has really opened up my eyes, anyways. I don't know about you, Hassan, maybe you can share in a minute, but for me it's really opened up the eyes to the concept of education, that it's not just for learning how to do sajda, how to pray a salah, how to give zakat. By the way, the rulings on zakat, my god, very complex for those that want to learn, very in-depth. Sarf, nahv, Arabic grammar, language, all
Yeah.
of that. That's just a part of it. There are so many blessings and so many social aspects to giving zakat, praying in congregation, doing jama'ah, doing khutbah even on Jum'ah. Like there's so many social aspects that we don't understand, that I have learned through Al Minhaj Institute with the classes and lessons and so on and so forth. I just think it's so eye-opening that there's so much that we can talk about, but we don't learn it until the perspective is given to you, right?
Yeah.
Someone can tell you something 10 times, but the 11th time when you properly listen to it, that's when your perspective
It's
changes.
when you're sort of willing, well,
Yeah, it is
being
willing
willing
to.
to listen, but being open to. So you might be sitting
Mm,
there not arguing with the teacher, listening, but if your sort of mind is not set on listening, then it's just you not messing
mm,
around and being well behaved and
exactly.
acting like you're listening. As
Exactly.
until your sort of ears are really open and you're really
Mm.
paying attention, you can't really understand what's being said to
I
you.
have an interesting question for you.
Yeah.
You know how I mentioned, I think the boundary between the elder generation, the younger one, the younger generation do not respect and look up to as much
Uh-huh.
the older generation as we did. As we did. Um, do you think social media, TikTok, Instagram, Reels, swiping, not Facebook really, I'd say, but TikTok and Instagram, do you think that the influencers or the people that they're seeing on their phone, so when they're on the phone scrolling, the people they're physically seeing, do you think those are the people they look up to instead now?
I think that does have a really big involvement in
Mm.
this. It has to be a massive factor because we did have social media around that time. I'm not saying we're that
Yeah,
old, we didn't.
of
We
course.
had that, but we didn't have things like TikTok until quite a few years later
Mm.
when we were a lot older than that.
Yeah,
And even social media, it wasn't every other
it
person on
wasn't booming.
posting.
Yeah,
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 we had proper sort of channels on YouTube,
of
proper
course.
accounts, and
Official
it
accounts.
was a lot
Yeah,
better in my
yeah.
sense. But now every other person that wants to post,
Mm.
it's so simple and it's so easy. You can make an account and you can post a
Mm.
video within minutes, right? So there's all sorts of people. I come across videos like that as well, where there's children being disrespectful to their parents, or they're sort of sharing their own story about what happened in their
Yeah.
houses and families, and they sort of I think it happens passively, where sort of their minds are taking
Unconditional,
all
yeah.
of this information in,
Mm.
and it just sort of structures and it sort of influences their behavior without them realizing it as much. I think it's a massive.
I think they
Yeah,
they have that kind of, that's the education. That's what they're learning
yeah,
from, right? But I think the other concern I have is that they don't understand. So what happens is that they have an argument with the parents and they
yeah,
say, I don't want to listen to you. And that boundary is broken. And until they're older and they have that maturity, they will not try their best effort to fix that boundary. Parents, of course, love their children
yeah,
unconditionally. Sometimes as kids, you don't. And
yeah,
it's the unfortunate truth. It's just
yeah,
the way the world works.
yeah,
But I think going forward, what happens is when these kids are looking at TikTok and Insta,
hmm
they don't see the fights that that person is having. They don't understand
they
that
don't
person's
know the
life.
full story.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
only see what's posted,
yeah,
right? And now bear in mind, if their parents were to post on TikTok or social media,
yeah,
they would only see that bit. So maybe
yeah,
they'd fall in love with
yeah,
that personality.
yeah,
But until kids realize that a relationship is supposed to be arguments and issues and concerns, that's
yeah,
how you develop your
yeah.
connection.
I would say the
That
perfect
is
relationship.
literally how you develop love.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd say the perfect relationship is one that has sort of different opinions. It
yeah,
doesn't have to be all sort of everyone's agreeing on one opinion. It
exactly.
has to be some sort of discussion.
Respectfully
Yeah,
disagree. Yeah,
respectfully.
yeah.
And I think we only have 2 minutes left, or
We've
even
got
less than that,
we've got 7, 8, 9. We've got 3 minutes.
right?
Yeah, three
I
minutes.
think so. Before we
Maths wasn't
end,
working there.
um, I think another point that we can talk about, another reason
Mm,
for this could be, so if we think about our parents
mm,
and then we think about their parents or our grandparents,
right.
so the stories that they tell us how strict their parents
Right.
were. And I'm sure if we spoke to our grandparents, they'll be saying a similar thing,
Yeah, of
how
course.
strict
Yeah.
their parents would be.
Mm.
So I feel like maybe I might be right, I might be wrong. It's sort of, as parents are raising the next generation, so we see our parents and we're saying that they're too strict for us,
Mm.
right? And then we're saying to ourselves, we're not going to be that strict.
But you
So
are.
well, you are, but I feel like you're not as strict. You
But it's
think back
because of the
to,
zamana, like because of the
yeah,
generation, it's stepping down each time.
yeah,
Yeah, it's really stepping down each time. The strictness level is stepping down each time. But to that generation,
hmm
no matter what you do, you're strict.
yeah.
They will always
But
consider
it's
you.
a sort of, it's an ongoing thing, and it's something that's going to keep going. It's sort of going to keep switching this way, where
Mm,
it's parents are not, well, they might be strict, or sort of kids, if we're looking at just kids, they're sort of not respecting their elders, their parents,
mm.
they're talking back, and all sorts of those things. But do you also think that their environment and sort of the company has some sort of involvement?
I think it definitely does. But I think that the idea of suhba, right? The idea of
Yeah.
company, who you're chilling with, who you're hanging out with, that will never change generation by generation.
Mhm.
I think that's not a factor that will change. No matter what generation a child is born in, his company will always affect him.
Yeah.
I think
And you
now,
will always have good apples and bad apples,
of course,
right?
that's the whole concept, that's the
Yeah.
whole idea. But I think going forward, like we were discussing before, the whole concept of parents need to adapt. And I know it's bad. At some point, we will have to adapt because, to be very honest, with my students, I am strict. Like I am so strict, and I think having those boundaries and that structure in place, it's
Yeah.
good. It provides structure for them to learn. It's an environment, but outside of the learning environment, where they know they're not learning, where they're at home,
Yeah.
yes, you'll be passively teaching them. The
hmm
parents will be passively teaching them, but I think it's important that they educate them through love, right? They don't want to be so strict where they fall off and they just kind of
Yeah.
completely rebound and
Yeah.
it just goes wrong. I think it's super important that we'll start wrapping up now, but I think it's super important that
Yeah.
parents really take that into
And I
perception.
think you agree with me. We're not saying that sort of just completely changing and being
Mm,
passive. It's about, obviously there is certain things that if a child is doing something, you have
mm.
to be really strict
Of
with them.
course,
There are things, we're not saying that you have to completely
of
remove that,
course,
but
of
it's about
course.
sort of generally
Mm,
being a little adapting around
mm.
them and seeing what works better with their heads, because obviously the minds have changed and they've shifted quite a bit. I think
So I think it's time
we're
now.
finishing time.
We've just gone through briefly a few aspects of the youth.
Yeah.
Hopefully that was engaging everyone. And I think we've really tried to highlight the aspects of keeping the youth within the masjids and just motivating them. I think that's it. We don't have time for anything else. Hopefully, we'll be here soon again, inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah.
You've been listening to Revive FM. Happy Ramadan, Ramadan Mubarak. I hope everyone is not too hungry. I am, to be honest, even though it's a short fast, I'm still feeling it. But it's been a pleasure to talk on Revive FM, and a really big thank you to the organizers and Al Minhaj Institute, especially for this collaboration. So, Jazakallah, everyone. I hope everyone has a good Taraweeh, a good night's sleep, inshallah, and hopefully everyone can wake up on time and have some suhoor, inshallah.
Inshallah.
This iftari is sponsored by the Wahbeh restaurant in Gants Hill, Ilford, and Plashett Carpets in Upton Park.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم إني لك صمت وبك آمنت وعليك توكلت وعلى رزقك أفطرت. وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. إله إلا الله.
اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله في الأولين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه في الآخرين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت سيدنا ومولانا محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
This iftari is sponsored by the Wahbeh restaurant in Gants Hill, Ilford and Plashet Carpets in Upton Park.